Hey, future medics! Welcome to 50 Mils of Medicine, where we give you small doses to create big understanding. Without wasting time, let's get started. So, every time I was in the ward back in my fifth year, I used to ask myself, why do doctors always check for direct direct bilirubin and indirect bilirubin? Like, what's the point? And how does this help guide me to the definite diagnosis? I looked at that lab result and I felt so small, and I felt like maybe it's just a big doctor thing that I will never understand. But today I challenged myself into learning about what exactly is behind that action. So I will teach you everything today that I have learned and more. How does bilirubin come about? So the first step is that the red blood cells, they split and they die. If they've reached their 120 days, they will split open, and HB will split open to produce globin and heme. By HB, I mean hemoglobin. So, step after that is that the heme part, we are more interested in this part. So, heme will be metabolized by an enzyme called heme oxygenase. And what does that bring out? It'll give out a carbon monoxide and it will also release biliverdin. Biliverdin. And this biliverdin is a green pigment. And then once biliverdin has been made, it will be converted into bilirubin. Bilirubin. This bilirubin, the issue with it is that it's outside of the liver. And this is what we call the indirect bilirubin. Why? Why do we call it indirect bilirubin? It is because at this point, the bilirubin has not been conjugated. So it's just, it's all alone. So for it to enter the liver, it needs something that will transport it into the liver. And that is what we call albumin. So albumin will bind to the bilirubin and take it to the liver. So once bilirubin is taken up in the liver, let's think of it like this. This is your liver cell. Look at this as a big hepatocyte within the liver. The liver has two jobs. It's to bring in the bilirubin, and once the bilirubin is inside, the liver has a job to conjugate this bilirubin. The liver has a special enzyme that we call UDP. So what this enzyme does, it adds what we call a glucose to the bilirubin. And then once that glucuronic acid is added, this bilirubin becomes conjugated. That's the deal. And the conjugated bilirubin is also called a direct bilirubin. And then once it's done, the liver has to release it out into. So imagine it like this. This is the hepatocyte cell, and then it has little tubes around it like this, right? These are called the canaliculi. Canaliculi. So the bile, the bilirubin, will travel through these and enter into a different duct, which we call the interlobular bile duct. Interlobular bile duct, or the intra. So it could be inter, it could be intra, depending on where it travels. It doesn't really matter. And then from there, it will go into either the right or the left hepatic duct. From these two ducts, it will enter into a common hepatic duct. So it will connect into the common bile duct. Done. And then this is where you find your duodenum. Duodenum. Now, back to the question that I had earlier. Why do doctors check for direct and indirect bilirubin? So the answer to this question that I have is that they're trying to figure out what is the cause of the jaundice that could be in this neonate. So we need to check both sides. But now I'm trying to understand deeper why exactly. So that is what I want to explain, where the problem could be in the process that I am just from illustrating. Could the process be in the red blood cells? The problem in the red blood cells? Could the problem be in the liver? Could the problem be in the ducts? Maybe. So, intelligent doctors have actually grouped this whole process. Intelligent doctors have actually grouped this whole process. So this is pre. You know what pre is? Pre is before. This is intra. You know, intra. This is inside. And this is post. So they use the word hepatic. So pre-hepatic, before the liver, inside the liver, and after the liver. Post means after. So now, the reason why they do this is because they want to understand where the problem could have been. Is the problem in the red blood cells, or is it in the liver, or is it within the ducts? So we're going to separate it like this. Why? If the problem is within the ducts, then it means everything else here went quite well. The bilirubin got the albumin, it went into the liver took it in, it got conjugated, tick, and now the rest, it got released, tick. Now the rest is left to this guy. Could there be an obstruction somewhere here? We don't really know. So if it's conjugated, if we have highly, if we do the lab results and we find that we have high conjugated bilirubin, then it means the problem is here, post hepatic. But if we find that this is okay, but the indirect bilirubin or not unconjugated bilirubin is high, then it means the issue is somewhere here, either intra or pre-hepatic. So that's the first step. Let's begin with the red blood cells. Let's say hypothetically the problem is within the red blood cells. Okay, right. So, red blood cells, cool. So we're gonna dive in deeper. Is the problem within the red blood cells or something outside of the red blood cells is attacking the red blood cells? So outside. Ask yourself those questions. The red blood cells have to be broken down in order for them to release bilirubin. So their breaking down is actually physiological. It should happen. It's supposed to happen in the body every 120 days. But now, if it's now happening more often, it can lead to something called jaundice. So now the question is, let's say hypothetically that the problem is in the red blood cells. How do we now find the actual root cause of this? So hypothetically, we say that it could be within the red blood cells. What possible reasons can affect the red blood cells? Okay, it could be, problem could be in there, in the hemoglobin of the red blood cell. So these diseases have a hemoglobin that is not accommodative for the red blood cell. So the red blood cell could be, the hemoglobin of this red blood cell could be deficient, which is causing it not to survive the 120 days. The next issue could be an enzyme that we call G6PD. Some people do not have this enzyme. Well, this enzyme is very, very important because it helps the cell to survive oxidative stress. So if the cell cannot survive oxidative stress, that means it will die quickly. Get it? Okay. We move on to the next factor, the cell membrane. Right. The cell membrane could be weak. The cell membrane may be weak and wrongly shaped. And this disease is what we call hereditary spherocytosis. Hereditary spherocytosis. So these are the factors that can make a red blood cell die quickly. Either an HP issue, which is in sickle cell or thalassemia, or it's an enzyme deficiency of G6PD where they cannot survive oxidative stress, or it's a cell membrane that is not really that strong, hence obviously it easily dies. Hence the hemolysis levels are high. Or the red blood cell could be actually okay, but now there are external factors which are coming into play and destroying the red blood cell prematurely. Those factors could be, number one, an immune attack. Number two, it could be trauma. Number three could be an infection. An infection that I'd most likely say it is malaria. Malaria usually targets the red blood cells, hence red blood cells die quicker. Number four, hypersplenism. Hypersplenism. If the spleen is doing a magnificent job in degrading the red blood cells, these are external factors which can cause early death to the red blood cell. So the problem could be in the red blood cell. We've already covered that. So it's for you to now do your good exercise of lab results to figure out which of these could have been the case.